Hey, everybody, welcome to the show, the show of the shows. Today we have gathered to discuss season 1 of the Amazon show, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I am one of your hosts, Jay Reed. I'm here alongside Eric.
Hey guys, howdy.
We got Aaron on the line.
Hello.
And we may or may not have Adam yet.
I think Adam actually is getting a drink or something, so he'll be back in a minute.
All right.
But let's go ahead and get started since he's a little slow.
Yeah, well, it's been a while since we've been on the pod. Looking at our Google Sheets where we keep track of our ratings, it looks like it's been since March the 3rd.
Wow.
So, it's been a while, guys. What have you guys been watching apart from The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel?
Well, I actually watched the first season of The Tick and absolutely adored it, the new Amazon Tick, not the one with Patrick Warburton. It is fantastically done, and I've really enjoyed it because it's kind of like a ridiculous satire of the superhero genre, but like you can't stop watching it. It's like a beautiful car wreck.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had a lot of fun watching that. What about you, Eric?
I haven't been watching a whole lot of TV per se. I've been trying to find good movies here and there because most of my nights have been work, and then just want to crash to something I can complete in one go. I watched, what movie is it called? It's called The Bright Side with Kevin Hart and Breaking Bad guy. What's his name?
Bryan Cranston?
Yeah, him and Kevin Hart did a pretty good movie. Not too bad.
Is it the French one or the remake of that French one that Christy was talking about?
Yeah, it's
like
Bryan
the disabled billionaire and then his helper who they get to know each other.
Yeah. Bryan Cranston is paralyzed from the neck down, and Kevin Hart is on PO trying to get proof that he's looking for jobs. He stumbles into this interview, and then him being the least qualified guy, semi-suicidal Bryan Cranston is just hoping that he inadvertently kills him. But through a turn of events, he finds a new vigor for life, and Kevin finds a reason to be responsible. So it was a good unexpected movie to watch. Pulled on the heartstrings a little bit, but mostly wanted to watch some good characters be good characters.
Was it funny?
Yeah, there was some. It wasn't meant to be funny.
Oh, okay, interesting.
I would call it a dramedy.
Yeah, it's difficult to see Kevin Hart in that kind of a role, but maybe he's growing as an actor.
Well, if you ever listen to Kevin Hart, he personally, he's super positive and super like life is what you make it. I mean, he's had the short guy syndrome in most of his life, so he's had to deal with that, and like life is just whatever you make it, and so that's why he's chosen comedy and everything else. But this story really kind of gets him out of his own element a little bit. There's still comedic factors, but it's not exactly what you would think going in. It's a good dramedy. Just to
Gotcha.
put it that way. What about you, Jay?
Well, I was going through a phase there where there was a lot of new content coming out, and then I went through a little bit of slump of falling back on old stuff. But I guess lately the two big things for me have been Star Trek Discovery, which just wrapped up a couple weeks ago.
Nice.
And The Orville as well.
I've been watching a few of The Orville.
I've liked
just
it.
Wrapped up this week, didn't it?
I think it might have. I'm an episode or two behind. I've seen most of it, but overall, I'm very positive about this season. I think it's been great.
They called the finale their most ambitious episode yet, so I'm interested in watching it.
Oh wow, okay. Well, now that it's over, maybe we can think about doing that for a future month of the show.
That's true.
I'd be down.
And there's that.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, it looks like we got Adam on the line. What have you been watching lately, Adam?
What have I been watching? Quite a few things. It's been a while since we kind of last gathered. I actually ended up watching Umbrella Academy before I finished Maisel, which was kind of funny. So finished that. I watched Us, which was a movie that came out a while
Ooh,
ago.
is that good?
It's interesting. It's intriguing. I wouldn't really go expecting a horror.
Yeah, I thought it was more of a thriller than a horror.
It's more of a thriller. It'll keep you on your toes on some parts, but then, well, I don't want to spoil anything, so I won't continue. But
It's weird.
it's weird and it's got an interesting plot. I've been watching The Tick, which
Yeah, I was
no,
telling
I
him about
really
that.
do. Okay,
It's really good.
it's pretty good.
What do you think about it, Adam?
It's a little cheesy, but overall, it's pretty good. I enjoy it. I mean, superhero movies are going to be a little cheesy, so you just got to kind of, deal with it. But it's got some kind of unknown actors in it.
Is it new? Is it 2018, 2019?
Yeah, 2018,
Yeah.
2019, season
Well,
2.
2017, 2019.
Live action or what?
Yeah, live action. It's really good.
That sounds interesting. Yeah, I just never grew up watching The Tick. That's in the same era though as like Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain, though, right?
Yeah,
Same
it's
era.
not late 90s cartoons.
That's where I've seen this guy. He's Pete from Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, real quick on Us, it's a Jordan Peele movie. Have you seen Get Out?
Yeah.
That's supposed to be the original.
I liked Get Out more than Us. Us felt like the fever dream of Jordan Peele.
Well, I feel like if you have seen Get Out, you kind of know what to expect with Us. I haven't seen Us.
I don't. Have you not seen Us?
I haven't seen Us.
I wouldn't say. I would say that Us is. It's just not as good as Get Out. Get Out is more solid, more. I don't know, realistic or like actually like scary. This is so a little fantastical that you're kind of like, oh, it's thrilling, but
could never happen.
Could never happen. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say about Get Out. I went in to Get Out just expecting to feel guilty for my whiteness, but they did a very good job at just making it an enjoyable movie for everybody. And it wasn't so much horror as it was suspenseful and thrilling. So I'd assume Us would come out the gate be like, oh, ooh, dark horror. Oh, wait, but I saw Get Out. So I know that there's going to be some sort of palatable essence about it. Because, I mean, it doesn't seem like Jordan Peele would want to do like a straight up horror. But I don't know.
I don't know much about the director himself to comment.
I don't know. Everyone keeps saying that Jordan Peele is like the master of horror and that he's doing things that no one's done before. Yeah, like they're saying that he's like the new master of horror.
He's unique, for sure. 100% unique. I mean, these styles.
I walked out of it thinking, is Jordan Peele unique because he's making black people do what white people do in horror movies? Because it didn't feel like when people were like, oh, it's the most amazing thing, I can't believe it, it's just absolutely phenomenal. I was like, it was good.
Mm-hmm.
He got a lot of flack. I don't know if you heard of this, Jay, but Jordan Peele was getting a lot of flack for saying he wanted to make black people movies. And so he was like, you always see the white American family, but what about the black American family? So that might be this movie's catch. I don't know.
I mean, it is a black American family, but that's the thing, is it didn't feel any different than any other movie I've ever seen. And so then it was like,
that's probably a good thing, though.
You're probably not wrong.
In the sense of, if it's a black American family for the sake of being a black American family, then it should feel like every other movie that you've seen to say that a black American family is now.
I honestly thought the first part of this movie, which was centered around the black American family, felt a lot like Strangers, which was with a white American family. So
he might be. I think that's what he's doing. I think he is legitimately on purpose doing uh, some racial redemption in Hollywood.
That's fine.
I think he's already outspoken in his desire to make that balance.
I understand that, but is it actually like phenomenal, or is it just because he said this is what he's doing? People are like, oh, it must be phenomenal because that's what he's doing.
Well, sure, but he didn't say that for Get Out, so that's what I'm hoping for us. That Get Out, that Us has some of that like refreshing mystery. Because I feel like a lot of movies you can call. Get Out to me felt very much like Cabin in the Woods. Like you just didn't know what was going on until like the very end. It's like what?
I've never seen Get Out, so no spoilers.
Huh?
I've never seen Get Out, so no spoilers.
You haven't seen Get Out? All right. I know Aaron's seen Cabin in the Woods.
It's phenomenal. It's one of the best movies in the world.
Is that the one with the monsters?
God. Sorry, people, for Adam's.
So I was right.
The one movie that I say that you don't understand what's going on until the very end, and then.
Yeah, but that movie came out like 10 years ago. Like, there's a statute of limitations on spoilers. Like,
Also, you come to the show
spoiler
expecting
alert,
spoilers, so
yeah, like when people get pissed about spoiling the end of Casablanca, like get over yourself. Like, come on.
yeah, agreed.
I just hate when people. No, I'm joking.
Like, no one say shit about Avengers, which I do want to go see. I want to go see it.
I want to see Avengers 2.
Is Endgame out? Is that what just came out?
It came out.
on the 25th. The show is so is Shazam, which I haven't seen. So like, gosh, I'm behind.
Shazam seems like a red box.
It's supposed to be really good. It's supposed to be really, really good.
Well, it's got Chuck in it.
I love Chuck.
Yeah, I love Chuck.
Well, if you guys love Chuck, you guys are going to love season 2 of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Will we?
Well,
Segway.
Yeah, I'll just kick things off. I like this show a moderate amount, enough to watch the second season, and he plays a pretty significant role in it. Chuck, I mean.
Who? Chuck?
The guy from Chuck, the show Chuck.
The guy from Shazam.
Shazam.
The guy from Shazam, which is from Chuck, which is now in season 2 of Miss Maisel.
Correct.
Huh.
I'm gonna be honest. I had a really rough time with this show. It was hard to kind of keep my attention throughout, and the moments where she was like actually kind of like letting loose on stage, those would capture my attention. They were kind of funny. I won't say pretty funny, but yeah, no. Other than that, just I don't know. It didn't really capture my attention much.
I don't really care for stand-up, and I'm not a huge fan of female comics. And it's not that I, am misogynist. They can be funny. They can, have great humor. I love Tina Fey. I love Amy Poehler. They're amazing women. But stand-up to me just is not my favorite style of comedy. And this kind of was like the worst of the worst. And I don't know. I just felt like, man, I'm having to dredge through this. There were some moments that were entertaining, but I don't know. For me, I didn't see what everyone was raving about whenever, this show's gotten some serious praise. And like my sister was just raving about it. And I was like, I didn't really like it. She's like, how could you? So...
But you watched it, and now you have that common ground to discuss about it.
It's true.
I found the show. I liked it. It wasn't the easiest show to binge, but I think for me at least, I had to wait until I saw it from not really a stand-up, all right, entertain me, kind of. I had to see it from her point of view of like, oh, wow, this is just a story of a woman who's going through some shit, and her outlet found herself on this stage where she was able to just kind of vent and roll off the cuff. But until you really see like, hey, this isn't a show about a stand-up comic and then her life behind the scenes. This is her life and her being a stand-up comic behind the scenes. So I thought it was a pretty interesting setup, to say, just like the basic plot of the show. But I thought that there was more comedy in her life and the things that weren't supposed to be funny than her actual stand-up. Like her father was one of my favorite characters of the entire show. But I think overall I enjoyed it.
I did like Tony Shalhoub quite a bit, but that's mostly from his work in other shows.
What's his name?
Tony Shalhoub, just a big fan in general.
Yeah, I was a big fan of really all of the performances from the leads. I thought they were casted really well. Tony Shalhoub, loved him. I love the mom as well. She played the ex-wife on 2.5 Men, which was my favorite show in the effing world when I was like 16. I thought the lead, Rachel Brosnahan, I thought her performance was excellent. I thought she was really, really engaging, very emotive. I always felt like I knew what she was feeling and, you know, what her plan was, why she was doing what she was doing. I thought that was all expressed really well in her performance.
She was adorable. She was very good with that.
Yeah. I feel differently about stand-up to begin with. I'm a big fan of stand-up. That's one of my favorite forms of comedy. And I really enjoyed Midge's comedy. She was very good. I also really liked that they incorporated real life figures, like Lenny Bruce. He was a real person. The guy that she interacts with, and
it was Mrs. Maisel though, right? Like those skits were based off of actual performances.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this entire story is based off a true story.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's like one of the first women who got into, I think, being an insult comic.
Really?
Yeah.
I could see her being an insult comic for sure, especially after her interaction with the fake New Yorker. What was her name? The comedic woman. She went over to her penthouse.
Talk about the one played by Jane Lynch.
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember her name.
I need to look at the cast.
The one in the fat suit.
No, so I think the character of Midge Maisel is completely fictional, but to create that character, they've borrowed on the stories of many famous comics, such as Joan Rivers. So, like, her story is fictional, but they're setting her in a real life time and place where she's interacting with real historical figures.
Interesting. I think from a standpoint of her life, because I mean, just episode 1 or 2, her husband, after having a successful family, decides to leave her because he's bored, or just life isn't what it seems.
Yeah, I think it's the first episode.
She just, is it? Yeah. I think it might be, because I remember I've started this series twice. The first time I was very tired, did not know what I was getting into. I was ready for some ha-has. I wasn't ready for a whole story to unfold and to empathize with this woman who's just been hit with a 2x4 of life. Hey, now you got a house, kids, and your husband just decided he was done. Now what are you going to go do? And she was his ghostwriter for his comedy and decided to just go stand up on stage and then do her own thing. And
he was just copying Bob Hope.
Yeah, all that too.
Yeah, but she was doing the legwork to get him the good spots at the club by giving the food to the owners and such. Like she was really invested in him, and something that I appreciated about her characterization was that at the beginning it would have been like easier to write her as unhappy, because that would make her turn into comedy as an outlet, like I guess make a little bit more linear sense. But I thought that it was more compelling that her life at the beginning is ostensibly perfect. She's happy. She has exactly what she wants. And then through no fault of her own, it all goes away. And she has to pick up those pieces. And watching her just go about that in such a positive way that she's just like, you know what, this is my situation now. I'm just going to deal with it. I really enjoyed watching that.
I can
I enjoyed watching Joel, I think his name was, the husband,
Right.
come back. And then I was really I was rooting for her, probably out loud, like, don't do it. Like, hey, you know what? I think I'm ready to give this another go. And she was like, no, you can't just come back. You don't decide that you're done and then decide that you're not, like, that you want to come back. It's not that easy. I think
she was like,
watching her story was a powerful part of the show. How far did y'all make it? Did y'all completely finish?
Yeah, I finished it.
Like
her having to get Lenny Bruce to basically get her on stage because, you know, she was a pariah after she made fun of the lady in the fat suit, Jane Lynch or whatever.
And then Joel's at the show, right? He sees her perform, and that's the first time that he sees her.
That's the first time he sees her, and she uses the story about her, like him coming in and having sex and getting underwear, and he gets all offended. But then he like punches the guy that heckles her.
Yeah.
Which I thought was funny.
Because I maybe this comes out more in season 2 than in 1, but like he still loves her, and I think that they portrayed that well, that he still cared about her, he still loved her, but there wasn't a way that they were going to be able to have a life together again.
Yeah. Well, I thought Joel was kind of a douche and a child.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So did they never
Absolutely.
they never got back together?
No.
They were close to getting back together.
Yeah, they were close, but they didn't get back together.
It's been a few weeks, all this hustle and bustle of life and everything in between, Easter and everything else, since I finished the show. So I'm trying to remember what the last episode was.
The last episode was her doing stand-up after she couldn't get a gig for a while because she made fun of the other comedian.
In the fat suit.
And she's wearing the black dress with the pearls, and she finishes by saying, "I'm Mrs. Maisel," because she hadn't settled on what her name was up until that point.
Yeah. She
It was only 8 episodes.
Right. I really enjoyed her manager character, whose name I'm struggling to think of right now. It's not Sally. What is it?
Oh gosh.
Oh, this is embarrassing.
No, yeah, I'm trying to find the cast.
She was played by Alex Bornstein.
Susie.
I really like Susie, the way that Susie was just being Susie, and you know, the world around her kept insulting her, but she just kind of sucked it up and threw it back at whoever did it. How everyone kept assuming she was a man, and you know, she was just like, screw you, I am what I am.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of Imogene. Her best friend.
Oh yeah. When they girl talked in fitness class, they were like just doing like 15 minutes of yoga and then like talked about like 5 years of bullshit. It was just like, oh my god, that's probably how it really goes down.
Probably.
Well, something that I both liked and disliked about this show was the banter, because when she's not performing, this show is just constant quips, just constant chatter, back and forth, which sometimes worked really well and sometimes got on my nerves.
I can see that.
Because I don't know if you guys were aware of this, but the creator of this show is the creator who is behind Gilmore Girls, which is another show that is just completely characterized by that rat-a-tat rhythm of the dialogue. Almost like everybody is constantly really jumped up on a bunch of espresso.
So, are you saying that it's the female version of Aaron Sorkin?
I think there are a lot of similarities there. Yeah.
Because like Aaron Sorkin's described as like writing basically where everyone's on cocaine the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. Because Aaron Sorkin is a crack addict, and he wrote the American President while on crack and doesn't remember it. And I'm a big fan of a lot of what Aaron Sorkin does, and I think part of that is that now Aaron Sorkin does films where he does one every couple of years, so that banter, it's tight, it's well thought out, and it's not extraneous. While when you're doing it with a television show and you have a little bit more time to fill, I feel like sometimes that banter is of a lower quality.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I feel that.
And I felt like this show suffered from that sometimes, where sometimes there were scenes that really, really worked, and sometimes it was annoying to hear. I think especially it was when she was having conversations with her mother, and maybe that was because the mother's character was intentionally abrasive. Like, I don't think you're really supposed to like her because she's so damn critical about everything.
Yeah.
And maybe for myself, that was just more of a reminder of like their relationship very much reminded me of watching my mom interact with her mom. Because my grandmother on that side, anyone will tell you that she was not always a pleasant woman. And she had very high standards about everything and was very, very critical, especially if her own family did not meet those standards.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of that in those characters. So maybe that was a little bit more triggering to me than to others.
I could kind of agree with that. Like, the mom was definitely kind of bad shit at some point. Like, she went off in the synagogue, like the temple. Like, why would you ever do that?
Oh my god, that was the best scene of the whole show.
That was so frustrating to watch. It was like, oh my god, shut up. Not the time. But,
No,
I guess it was very Jewish, though. Like, if you got something to say, get it out. But, oh well.
Well, that was one of my favorite scenes. He goes, she sits down and says, where's Maisel? Or what's her name in the show?
Midge.
Where's Midge? And then he says, where have you been? And she said, you're going to answer my question with a question?
It's not here.
Where? It's sitting in the synagogue. It's like, okay, perfect place for timing.
Yeah, I like that, dude.
But no, I think there was a lot of
Sorry for
the best parts of the show in a comedic way was just her life unfolding. I think Jay, where you're saying like some of the scenes worked and it didn't work. I don't know if the show completely characterized itself as as a class A show, because some of the episodes were like 40-50 minutes, but it felt like it was written like a sitcom. Because this director did Roseanne as well, and like you said, Gilmore Girls. So I felt like it was kind of like in between of a purposefully written or a off the cuff sitcom. And so parts of the show where she was talking with her mom, that felt kind of like it was drudging on, because it was half a sitcom, half a 40-minute episodic whatever. But I don't know if the show ever knew what it completely was in that regard.
Yeah, I enjoyed this show, but I think I would agree with something Aaron said earlier, where he said that he didn't understand the hype around it. I would also really agree with that. I don't really understand why this has won so many awards. Was this the best comedy made in the last 2 years? I think no. Was it a good show, though? I'd say yes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't know that I can agree with that, but I will say that the show is a quality show. It's Amazon quality. I didn't relate to it. So something that stuck in my head the whole time I was watching the show is with the like movement and cultural movement that's happening right now in America, how is not this just, rich white lady, finds out how to live life without her husband type thing. Like I don't know. It was like
That's a good point. Apart from her being female, it's not very diverse.
it's not very diverse. It's just rich white women, dealing with white women problems.
Just dripping with privilege.
Yeah.
Oh man, your MRS degree husband left you. Boo fucking who?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that angle.
So that just was kind of one of the things that bothered me about it. It was that it was like, other than the fact that she's, a woman, she's a rich white woman in New York. Her family's taking care of the really hard parts,
Yeah, like, shelter, because they're staying in their parents' mansion. I like how they're really upset about the apartment, too. It's like, oh, the apartment. Oh, well.
Oh man, I forgot about Kevin Pollak. I loved Kevin Pollak in this.
Kevin Pollak. Who's that?
He was Joel's father.
Oh yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, saving the 14 Jews in the war.
And he takes every opportunity to tell that story.
Yeah.
His name was Moish Maisel or Moshe.
Moshe Maisel.
Yeah, loved him. Loved his character. I'm a big fan of Kevin Pollak anytime he shows up. Did you guys have any favorite moments or characters? Anything you really didn't like?
I liked the time that they went and saw the guy with the puppet, and the puppet was dead, and he went through the stand up without the puppet, but like telling what it would have been. That was legitimately funny. Mm-hmm. Like I enjoyed that. That was like showing the comedy that comics like, and I feel like it's why Tim and Eric and stuff like that is really like underground popular. But it was interesting. I enjoyed it.
One scene from the pilot that really hit me was the part where it's in the beginning and it's showing her life with Joel, and it shows how she would go to bed with him with her hair and makeup done, wait for him to fall asleep, then take it off, go back to bed, wake up before him, and then put it on before he got up to maintain this illusion that even when she was sleeping, even going to bed and getting up, she was this like goddess. And, I'm 100% sure that that's something that women actually did, and some women might continue to do now.
Christy said that was like a thing back then.
Yeah, I have no doubt. And it's just crazy to me that and I think it illustrated really well her sort of place in that world where what she wanted or her comfort or anything about her didn't really matter. It was just all about the man.
Yeah. 1950s America.
Yeah, I would not, and I think it communicated very well to me that I would not want to be a housewife in 1950s America.
I don't think housewives wanted to be housewives in 1950s America.
But I don't know. Like, it depends on perspectivism,
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, at that moment, she did. She was happy to do it because that's what she expected out of life, and that's what she thought success was.
Especially when you have a decent enough man to not want to change his mind all of a sudden. I mean,
she did not.
If you have the white picket fence and everyone's playing the part, I could see that in itself being very appealing and addicting. Like once you're in it, like, oh God, like got to keep it up. And now you are the Joneses.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, keeping up with the Joneses is one thing, but what if you are the Joneses?
Yeah, I think that was success to her at that moment.
Right.
And Joel leaving her is what destroyed it all.
Well, man, that pissed me off so much. I was like, you fucking dick. Like, you got this.
Anyway. Seriously, you've got this, and you're giving it up.
And such a cliche, going for his secretary. I think that really underlined, like, making us think that he's a sleaze.
Yeah. The secretary wouldn't.
They never really completely unfolded that part of the story because he ended up at his parents' house not too much later, and I mean, we never really saw the secretary.
She comes back at they dated for a while. They were at the dinner, and then at the very end, she like confronts Midge at the Macy's or whatever.
Well, Joel never talked about marrying the secretary, did he?
No,
Okay.
he did like stay with her for a while. Then there was like a night where like they saw that whenever the dad got the job at the place
At Bell Labs, they saw each
Bell
other
Labs,
at the Chinese restaurant.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one where he like drives to her apartment. He's like, "Get out! I'm gonna go do some other things."
Yeah.
And then like he doesn't come back to her, and then she goes and confronts Midge at the end.
Huh.
Right.
Oh, that's interesting. I think they had twins play in this movie. As the same actor. I never noticed. They pulled a Mary Kate and Ashley switch.
Oh, for the children?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty common with children because children are difficult to work with. So it's good to have a backup in case one starts acting up.
Like,
But they have the same last name, so I think they are twins. And they also look really alike.
Well,
yeah, like Mary Kate and Ashley, great example. Big Daddy, another example. They had twins play the one kid. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
So, what about some highlights and lowlights of the show? Best and worst parts.
I think we've kind of done that. Why don't we do our ratings now?
All right. Let's see. Let me see if I can pull up who went first last week.
Well, since we're doing it in different order per Eric's request, we can just do it however you want.
All right. I think Aaron kicked off last time. So let's have, how about Eric?
So, this show, I feel like it left a lot. I felt as far as drawing the story and the setting and giving her a character to empathize with. I think it did a good job. I'm gonna give it a 5.7. I liked it. I just thought there was a lot to give.
Okay, fair enough. 5.7 from Eric. I'll go next. I've given my thoughts on this show. I liked a lot about it. I didn't like some parts of it. I don't understand the hype, but it charmed me enough to watch season 2. And in my opinion, I think season 2 was a little bit better. But for season 1, I'd give it a 6.5. All right, next we have Aaron.
Really had to drudge through this show. Was not looking forward to it. There were some little bits of entertaining moments for me. But outside of those few isolated moments, generally, it wasn't something that I enjoyed watching. I'm going to give it a 3 because it is a quality show in the sense of like Amazon quality, but just not my bag. Just not my bag.
For those of you following along at home, the lowest score ever given by Aaron on this show was a 6.54321 for Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
And now we're hitting the lows of a 3.
Yeah, and the 3 really is generous in my mind because
he had no interest in the show.
It was, man, the last 4 episodes just drudge.
It's the only show Aaron I've ever heard him say was like, I'm just not going to finish it. He ended up finishing it, but he was definitely at a point where he's like, fuck this. I'll take the punishment.
I was willing to take the punishment. There was nothing about it that I finished The Tick in a day, like season 1 of The Tick. Like it just something I just couldn't enjoy it. Like I sat there and I just was like, more. Let me guess, you're going back to the Gaslight?
Actually, let me correct myself real fast. Your lowest rating was actually a 6 for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But that was also our lowest rated show ever. So
yeah.
All right. Adam, give us your review.
Okay. So I will say that
I think I don't remember who said it, but one of y'all said, and I think you really pegged the nail on the head here, that in between um, the stand up bits, it was just a lot of chatting, and to me, that was one of the most boring parts of the show. So I really struggled with the show as well. I enjoyed the stand-up bits; they were kind of funny. They threw some funny jokes in there. It was really energetic. She was able to capture the crowd's attention, and I really like the main actress. I hope she gets more work. She was fantastic. I want to see her in more stuff. That being said, this wasn't really my show. And while I think it's a well-made show, well-produced show, well-directed, well-acted, it's just not up my alley. So I'm gonna have to give it a 4.5.
All right, a 4.5 from Adam, giving us an average score of 4.925. 4.925. On our master list, that now becomes the second worst show we've ever rated, just above Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Wow.
Wow, we're really looking like misogynists now.
Sorry, not sorry. I have my own tastes and preferences.
I think that this is what I'll say, just the kind of closing thoughts. I understand why the show is popular. I understand that it's because it's a female doing stand-up in an era where men were dominant. And so the significance of the show, I feel like, is what is driving the popularity, not necessarily the writing or the jokes or the comedy. The acting is quality. They're pretty good. Because I'm not sitting there saying, you know what, I'm going to love this show because Social Justice Warrior. I sat there and was just like, more stand-up. And I just default have a problem with stand-up. And, I'm very, very selective on which stand-up I play. So it wasn't my bag. And anyone who does like this kind of stuff, power to you. There's a lot of weird shows I like that people just hate.
Garth Marenghi's Dark Place.
Yeah, Garth Marenghi's Dark Place.
You have fun with that show, Aaron.
Or Snuffbox.
Snuffbox was fantastic.
Well, the good news from this week is that we've already selected a show for next month. We're going to be watching The Umbrella Academy on Netflix.
Mm-hmm. I'm ready whenever y'all are.
All right. Eric, Aaron, how far are you guys along in Umbrella Acad?
I think I'm like on episode 3.
Yeah, that's where I am too. What about you, Eric?
I had to finish Maisel.
I've added it to my list, and I think I've watched the first episode.
Okay, gotcha.
Is this the one, Adam, that you thought it would be very appropriate to show the neighbor scene where we watched Near Smut with the group?
What are you talking about?
Is that this one? Umbrella?
What are you talking about?
Hang on.
That was for Death Love Robots, the miniseries.
Okay. No, I have not seen a single episode of this. I was thinking of the
Death Love Robots,
which is also very intriguing.
Very intriguing show. I like.
Not the best thing to turn on whenever you're just like, hey, I got something to watch.
Hey, Christy had a suggestion. Christy had a suggestion just to kind of put out there in the ether. She suggests the Ozarks for the future.
Oh, okay. That's not a bad call.
MTV, right?
It's Jason Bateman and it's a slow burn, is what she said.
It's on Netflix, and a lot of people have compared it. It's similar in storyline to Breaking Bad, of like a normal guy who gets involved with a criminal organization. I watched the first couple episodes a while ago, and it was intriguing, but didn't really capture my attention. But people keep telling me stick with it; it pays off.
Yeah, she said it's a slow burn, but once it gets going, it's good.
Okay. We can keep that in mind. Also, remember Orville season 2 is wrapped up, so we can put that on the list at some point.
Yeah.
And Atlanta season 2 is available on Hulu.
When did we do Atlanta and Orville? Like, would it be proper to do those in like October and November?
Let's see.
Answer me this: when are we going to watch Jean-Claude Van Johnson?
I want to watch that.
Let's see. So Atlanta was about a year ago. Orville was the first show we ever did.
Okay.
So both of those would be
Like right. Yeah. Right. Okay, so maybe after Umbrella Academy we do Orville.
Yeah, I'd say let's stick with Umbrella Academy for now, and we'll figure out the one after that once we do Umbrella Academy.
Why don't we just do Umbrella Academy and Orville season 2? Like, Adam's already watched Umbrella Academy. I've watched half of the Orville. You've already watched most of the Orville.
We
Like,
could do something to watch. We could do a double feature.
we could kind of do a double feature and do a catch up. Orville season 2 and Umbrella Academy.
Sure, that's going to put the burden on Eric. So what say you, Eric?
I'm totally down, but
Okay.
for entertainment value, I am looking up the top TV shows with female leads, and it's quite it's quite entertaining list.
What?
Hey, I don't feel like we need to.
Hey, we've hit number one.
No, I don't think we need to make any kind of excuses for what we've said today, because the show before this, Russian Doll, is another primarily female-driven show, and we loved it.
Phenomenal. We absolutely adored it.
Yeah, like this isn't a gender thing. It's just you guys didn't like Mrs. Maisel.
But hey, on this gender
Off
list,
this list, I love iZombie and Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. So thank you.
Yeah, both of
on
those
this
shows are
list,
fantastic.
though, we hit Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We did miss one of my favorite female shows, Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
The new one is supposed to be really interesting.
Parks and Rec, that's fantastic.
I'm just gonna read this list just because it's quite funny how limited the actual selection is. American Horror Story, I haven't seen. I'd be willing to look at, but Sarah Jane's Adventures, Lizzie McGuire,
What?
Zia-
Where are
Zia
you looking at?
Christmas, Girl.
Like, what? Whose top list is this?
I
Like, is
am
this just like random?
City Golden Girls. Hey, we're missing out on that one, guys. Veronica Mars. Oh yeah. Look, the list is not very.
So I typed in top
selling it.
female actor shows, and it's Girls, Broad City, I Love Lucy, Chewing Gum, Happy Valley, The Killing, Cable Girls, Charmed, Call the Midwife, and Nurse Jackie.
I would be willing to put I Love Lucy on the list. Oh my god, I love that show. I really do.
I feel like there are some things that are worth leaving in the box.
Ricky Ricardo? Like, are you kidding me?
Gains more value.
Oh,
That way.
say I'm home.
No, it's a great all-around show.
Got some explaining to do.
We should just watch Orange is the New Black if we're wanting
Oh.
a female lead show.
I did not care for that show either.
Charlie's Angels. iCarly.
I would watch iZombie though. Like,
I
think-
watched it, but yeah.
I think we've got a great thing going where we've been reviewing current shows lately, and I feel like we should try to keep that going as long as we can.
But you
there's
don't want to do
enough
the
content. Like, we almost ran dry for a bit there, and then we went and watched like Buffy and some other stuff. Yeah, wait, we haven't really been doing current shows. We haven't really, Jay,
We
because you
did.
got Cowboy
We-
Bebop, you got Buffy.
That was like in October, bud.
I think we should do essential shows and underground shows. I think Buffy was a very good essential show.
It was October. We did that for like Halloween.
It was topical.
It was topical for the month. Spooky.
And
wasn't
on
really
the top
current, though.
list of female leads. So we
It
just
just happened to be a female lead.
I want to go back and watch Jean-Claude Van Johnson. Though.
I do too. It's on the to-do list.
Which one?
Jean-Claude Van Johnson.
Oh.
It's a show that is based around Jean-Claude Van Damme
Being a spy and an actor
and an actor at the same time.
at the same time.
It's pretty.
And he in the show he does a action movie remake of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn.
All right, so what are we doing right now? We're doing Orville season 2 and Umbrella Academy.
Yeah.
Umbrella Academy.
All right, yeah, I haven't seen a single episode of this, so I shall do that.
Let's try not to make it 2 months this time before our next
All
Right.
right.
congregation.
Let's do the end of May, right?
We can do this. We can do this into May.
I'm gonna finish Orville in like 10 days.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I'm already halfway through Orville. We could do that.
We can do Orville and
Let's do Orville. Let's do that. Let's do Orville second week in May, and then we'll do Umbrella Academy at the end.
What?
we'll figure it out. But those two shows are on the docket.
Because I've been watching Orville episode.
Yeah,
by
I'm halfway through.
But I think that's a wrap, boys.
I think that's a wrap.
All right.
All
see you
right.
guys next time.
Well, this has been the show signing off.
You can find us on Twitter at the show something. Damn it.
Damn it!
You almost got it. You almost got it.
Where we
Little more
leave our
practice.
opinions about other opinions on our shows.
Yeah.
All right,
On our shows.
cutting our losses.